"Sir, put the weapon down right now." The voice cracked across the courtyard of Silver Ridge Veterans Home in Evergreen Falls, Colorado, like a whip young. Sharp. The kind of confidence born from inexperience. Tom Callahan, 79. Didn't move. Didn't blink. His scar-lined hands glided a cloth over the walnut stock of the M14 DMR laid across his lap. The steel shimmered in the late afternoon light, steady as the man holding it. Above him, oak branches scattered shadows across the stone bench. Cut grass mingled with roses in the breeze, to any passer-by. He looked like a man carved into stillness, except for the rifle that didn't belong in this place of peace. Two men in Navy security uniforms stood over him. Ethan Ward, 27, squared shoulders, jaw tight, eager to prove authority. His badge gleamed. Ego brighter still. Carl Donovan, 52, heavier, slower, one step back. His stance said experience. His eyes said caution. "Did you hear me?" Sir Ethan pressed, chin jerking toward the rifle. "This is private property. No firearms allowed in common areas." His voice carried just enough for residents nearby to freeze. Mrs. Kaplan halted mid-step, her grocery tote sagging. Mr. Chen's garden trowel slipped into the soil. Tom didn't hurry. He finished the stroke of the cloth, then raised his head. His pale gray eyes scanned the young guard's polished shoes, pressed trousers, the tremor beneath the stance. No fear, no anger, just the stillness of a man who had seen worse. "It's a good day," Tom said. "Gravel deep, humidity eats steel. I'm just cleaning my rifle." Ethan laughed, short and sharp. "Humidity, don't get cute with me. Rules are rules. Put it down, or I'll take it." Silence tightened around them. Even the birds in the hedges seemed to pause. Tom moved deliberately. He laid the rifle beside him on the bench. No surrender. No defiance. Just careful respect for the weapon. Then, slow as breath, he reached into his back pocket and pulled a worn leather wallet. Ethan snatched it before anyone could react. Gasps rippled through the watching residents. He flipped clumsily until a folded scrap of faded cloth slid out an insignia with a wolf's head. Threadbare but unmistakable. "What's this?" Ethan sneered. "Playing soldier." Tom's eyes hardened, iron cutting through calm, and the air itself seemed to shift. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the next military story. "Put that back." Tom's voice carried no tremor now. It was command, honed across jungles and battlefields. Ethan smirked, mistaking authority for bluff. "Or what you gonna duel me with that museum piece?" He nodded at the M14. His gaze caught faint text on the receiver. He bent closer, reading aloud, "Project Iron Phantom. We were never there. What the hell's that supposed to mean?" Some retirement club motto. He dragged a careless finger across the engraving, smudging the oil Tom had laid with reverence. That touch crossed a line. The courtyard faded. Roses dissolved into the metallic tang of blood and cordite. Colorado's sun gave way to the crushing canopy of Southeast Asia. August 1967. The rifle was no longer resting safe on a bench. It was pressed to Tom's shoulder, cheek against cool steel. Gunfire cracked, smoke churned, and through it all, a boy's face emerged, Private Jimmy Walker. 19, freckles scattered across fear-bright skin. Nose broken in training. His voice whispered raw and eternal, "Go, Tom. Don't look back. Just go." Thunder, lightning. The memory snapped shut. The courtyard slammed back into being. Tom's hand shot forward, faster than reason, clamping Ethan's wrist, not violent but immovable, forged from decades of survival. Ethan yelped, shock cutting through arrogance. His stance collapsed. "You will not touch this rifle again." Tom said flatly. No raised volume, no visible fury, just truth spoken from a man who had buried too many. The onlookers froze. Carl shifted uneasily, caught between duty and awe. Among them stood Emily Carter, visitor's badge still pinned to her blouse. Her father had fought in Iraq. She recognized relics others dismissed as junk, and she knew desecration when she saw it, as Ethan twisted and cursed against that unshakable grip. Emily's phone was already in her hand. She didn't call 911. She didn't call the front desk. She scrolled to a name saved years ago from a Gold Star conference, Colonel David Holloway. Fort Carson. His promise echoed in her memory. If you ever see a soldier disrespected, you call me. Heart hammering. She ducked behind a planter and pressed dial. Colonel Holloway's office. Came the clipped answer. This is Emily Carter. She whispered. I met the colonel in 2020. He told me to call. There's a veteran here being harassed. His name is Tom Callahan, and the guard just read something off his rifle. Project Iron Phantom. We were never there. The line went silent. Utterly silent. Emily realized, with a chill, that something had shifted far beyond a courtyard dispute. Stay on the line. Do not hang up. Emily Carter's breath was shallow, her back pressed to the planter's cool ceramic. On the other end of the call, Colonel David Holloway went very still. She could almost hear the air shift around him. The clipped professionalism of Fort Carson dissolved into something harder. A man who knew the weight of names never meant to be spoken outside war rooms. Repeat the name, Holloway said. Tom Callahan. Emily whispered. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out. The guard. He read something off his rifle. Project Iron Phantom. We were never there. For a long moment. Silence. Emily thought the line had dropped. Then Holloway spoke, his voice flat as stone. Keep your eyes on Callahan. Is he safe? Emily risked a glance. Ethan Ward's jaw was clenched, handcuffs trembling in his grip. Carl Donovan hovered, unease written across his face. And Tom, he hadn't moved, hadn't blinked, his M14 resting on the bench like a relic carved from time. They're trying to cuff him. She breathed. Don't hang up, Holloway said. His tone left no room for argument. I'm escalating. At Fort Carson. Holloway's hand flew over the secure console. This wasn't a call for police, or even base security. This was the code he'd hoped never to use. A string of numbers punched into a black phone, the kind that rerouted the world, minutes later, in a Pentagon side wing. General Nathaniel Briggs leaned over briefing papers, half listening to a logistics officer drone about supply routes. Coffee steamed beside him. Then the door burst open. Holloway entered, face pale, voice stripped of ceremony. Sir, civilian report, Silver Ridge Veterans Home. An elderly man, Tom Callahan, rifle engraved Project Iron Phantom. We were never there. The room froze. Even the projector hum seemed to stutter. Briggs's calm cracked. His eyes darkened, carrying memories carved too deep for paper trails. He knew the name, the phrase. They belonged to black missions buried so deep even funerals were denied. Clear the room, Briggs ordered. Voice low and lethal. Staff officers scattered. Briggs leaned over the map, stabbing a finger at Evergreen Falls. Pull real-time satellite. Scramble QRF. 2 Blackhawks. 1 Little Bird. Sterile gear. No insignia. Wheels up in 5. Sir, Holloway said. Standing orders, Briggs cut him off. I wrote those orders. They're alive because of him. Get the birds up. I'm going with them. Across the base. Alarms stirred without sirens. Pilots dropped coffee. Crews armed rotors. Flight lines cleared. The quiet Saturday dissolved into a storm of readiness, back in Evergreen Falls. Emily pressed the phone harder to her ear. A sound began faintly at first, like distant thunder. It wasn't her heartbeat. It grew, rhythmic, heavy, the rotors of something large. Moving fast, on the line. Holloway's final words landed like a verdict. "Brace yourself. They're coming." Emily lowered the phone, staring at the horizon. The air itself seemed to tremble. She knew she was about to witness something history books would never record. Ethan Ward's knuckles whitened around the cuffs. "We'll get you a quiet room downtown." "Old man," he hissed at Tom Callahan. "Maybe they'll even give you pudding." Carl Donovan stepped in, blocking Ethan with his heavier frame. "Enough. Call the police. Let them handle it." But Ethan shoved him aside. The cuffs snapped open with a metallic crack. Residents gasped, chairs scraped, voices rose in panic. Yet Tom stood still, unyielding, eyes far away, fixed on ghosts beyond the hedges. And then the sound came. At first, a murmur, then a pounding rhythm that rattled the windows. Every head turned upward as two black helicopters cut across the sky, angling low and fast, too precise for anything routine. The air exploded, dust lifted. Leaves tore free, hats whipped away. A garden rake clattered across the concrete. A walker tumbled end over end. Dresses snapped tight against bodies. Doors yawned open midair. Thick ropes uncoiled and struck the ground. Figures dropped one after another, gray tactical gear. Mirrored visors, rifles shouldered. They moved with a precision that left no doubt elite. Within seconds, the courtyard was sealed, a perimeter carved from silence and discipline. Emily pressed back against the brick wall, heart hammering, unable to breathe as the retirement home transformed into a war zone. The operators ignored the panicked seniors. They ignored Ethan and Carl, frozen mid-motion. Every visor turned toward the lead helicopter, and from its steps descended a single man. No rope, no haste, just authority. Tall, broad-shouldered, uniform stripped of insignia, yet the storm itself seemed to bend around him. General Nathaniel Briggs. The operators straightened, their formation tightening with instinctive respect. Briggs crossed the courtyard, each step deliberate, until he reached the bench. The battered rifle lay there, sunlight glinting off its steel. He bent, reading the engraving with fingers reverent, Project Iron Phantom. We were never there. His expression shifted rigid command, melting into something like devotion. He straightened, heels clicking, and raised a salute so sharp it cut the air. Not regulation, not protocol. Worship, Mr. Callahan. His voice thundered above the rotors. General Nathaniel Briggs, United States Army. It is an honor, an absolute honor. Tom's pale eyes lifted. He gave the faintest nod, a weary king acknowledging his knight. The courtyard froze. Even the operators seemed to breathe slower, the storm of blades hanging heavy but hushed. Briggs turned to the crowd, his words rolling like scripture. For those who do not understand what you are seeing know this. You stand in the presence of a ghost, the soldiers you call Delta Force. They are the sons of what he built with courage and steel. Murmurs rippled. Neighbors who once saw only a frail man at bingo now looked upon a legend. Then Briggs's gaze snapped to Ethan. The young guard flinched. You mistook silence for weakness. Age for fragility, Briggs said, his tone a blade. This man walked missions no flag could claim. No recognition, no rescue, only shadow and silence. He turned back to Tom, voice lowering to a private gravity. They told us you were all gone. The courtyard held its breath. Every eye fixed on Tom Callahan, waiting for the answer only he could give. The helicopters lifted away, leaving the grass of Silver Ridge Veterans' home pressed flat and the residents trembling in the echo. The silence that followed was not emptiness, it was reverence. For days across Evergreen Falls, whispers carried. Tom Callahan was no longer the quiet man at bingo night. He was history walking. General Briggs' salute had rewritten him in the eyes of neighbors who now looked at him with awe instead of indifference. The security company's downfall came swift. A Department of Defense inquiry forced a national apology. Ethan Ward lost his badge. Carl Donovan was quietly reassigned. The firm rolled out mandatory training meant to remind young guards that the elderly faces they overlooked were often men and women who had already paid life's highest costs. But Tom himself never gloated. He carried on with the same gentle routine coffee at dawn. Slow walks in the courtyard, shoulders light, gaze steady. Weeks later, on a cool morning, Tom sat in a diner off Main Street, nursing coffee and apple pie. The bell above the door jingled. Ethan Ward stepped in. No badge, no uniform, just a weary young man in jeans and a faded t-shirt. He froze when he saw Tom at the booth. For a moment, Ethan looked ready to bolt. Instead, he walked forward, hand trembling as he laid a crumpled 20 on the table. "That's for your pie, sir, and your coffee. I'm sorry for everything. I was an idiot." Tom studied him, saw the sincerity beneath exhaustion. He pushed the bill back. "Keep it, son. Sit down. Tell me about yourself." Ethan hesitated, then slid into the booth. Something unspoken passed between them, an understanding forged not by conflict, but by its aftermath. Forgiveness sealed it. Later. Tom would sometimes sit alone, fingers tracing the rifle's worn steel. Memories surfaced. Vietnam. 1967. Private Jimmy Walker's freckled face, eyes burning with loyalty, whispering through the smoke, "You are a ghost. We were never there." The weight of that vow had followed him for decades, yet as sunlight streamed through the diner's window, warming his face, Tom understood that haunting was not his legacy. Living was, teaching was, forgiving was. His story closed not with helicopters shaking the sky or generals saluting in storms, but with the quiet clink of coffee cups and the fragile beginning of an unexpected friendship. Because the truest warriors do not fight to be remembered. They fight so others can live free of the darkness they endured.